Hi everybody, it's December 7th, 2016, and I'm going to do a little bit of a flea market finds, tool store buys episode. I've got a few things here that are backing up that I want to put away, and I haven't put them away, and they're kind of getting in the way of my shop cleanup attempts, which are not going so well. But anyways, let's dive right in. I've got a few items that I actually got a couple months back that were complete freebies. I ended up doing some work for a company that does clean outs of estates and things like that, and they actually ended up with a kind of an unusual job. We ended up cleaning out a large commercial building in the city, and apparently years ago this building was over the years this building had been used for different purposes, and its last incarnation was a combination elderly housing apartment complex and also nursing home, and I think it was geared strictly for women. It's kind of a women's only type of situation there, and it was bought out by a large contractor whose intention is to gut the entire facility and turn it into apartments. So a lot of the rooms in there were basically one room after the other, almost identical. There was a lot of stuff in there. They did have an on-site auction and sold off quite a bit of the stuff, but then there was still a lot of stuff that was left behind. And at that point, a company I was working for was called in and basically just said, we want this entire place cleaned out. And the individual that I was working for, he cut a deal with a dumpster company, and he got some kind of a deal where he got a great rate on the roll-off containers that we had to fill, the big 40-yard roll-off dumpsters. It might have been 30-yarders, but anyways, we filled, I forgot how many of those we filled. It was like 2 full floors, a walk-up attic, and a basement. And I mean, it was a very big facility. So we ended up with a crew of about 20 or 25 guys, and worked 2 days on a weekend and cleaned out this whole thing. Anything that was metal or predominantly metal, we pulled out and piled into the parking lot, and the dumpster company guy also dealt with scrap metal, and he basically took all that for scrap. But I did get a couple of items that were slated to go in the pile for scrap metal but just were too good to scrap. I was able to get a couple of those items, and I will be showing those at some point. Right now I've got some of that stuff stored in another location, and I'm not going to be able to go there tonight while I'm doing this video. So I was just jumping in a couple things I found down in the basement. I found this, looks to be brand new or barely used, rigid plumbing. This is a rigid quick spin, catalog number 41348, Rigid Tool Company of El Ria. I'm sorry, I'm getting that wrong. Somewhere in Ohio, but it also says it's made in Mexico. So rigid tools made in Mexico. But this is a drain cleaning snake. I just bought one of these to use this past summer here at the house, and I didn't want to invest a ton of money because I had a feeling that I was going to eventually come into one of these at a really good deal, and turns out I got one for free. But I bought the more classic, typical kind that you guys have probably seen, where you've got this tip on it and it's just a cable and it's just in a loop. And some of them have like a little metal handle you can clamp on there, but they're not so great. This is a whole nother kettle of fish. What's nice about this is that if you pull this trigger and you turn this, it automatically feeds out as it goes down and through the drain. Backwards, and it goes right back in, and it stores all nice and neatly inside here, no mess. So I'm not even sure what, I think these sell for like 40 bucks, if I'm not mistaken, at the home centers. So it seems to work perfectly fine. It is kind of dirty here, so I'm sure they've used it over the years. They just never bothered taking the shrink wrap plastic off the outside of the drum. But so I'm glad to get that. It's not often that we clog a drain here at the house so badly that I need one of these, but it's certainly an indispensable tool to have. Matter of fact, here's the one that I just purchased this past summer when we had an emergency drain situation I had to deal with. I got this at my local hardware store, and I think this was like 12 or 15 bucks for this thing. And it's basically the cable with the same type of auger on the end there that's inside that, but it's shorter, and it just comes with this metal handle that you snake it through this handle, tighten down this wing nut, and then just kind of use these plastic things, and it's offset, so you can kind of do a swivel action like that. But you have to pretty much kind of feed it. It's okay for a clog that's not too far along. It's a little harder to get it to feed down and everything than that one. So that'll be my backup now, I guess, or maybe I'll put this. Actually, I think I've already got one on the fifth wheel trailer, so if we run into a problem camping, I've got one when I'm camping. There was an area downstairs. There was actually an industrial kitchen downstairs. Most of that went to scrap. There was also a room there that had all of the extra pots and pans. A lot of that was already taken when we got there. But I did find in that room, when we were cleaning out that room, I found this device here. Okay. And this, for those of you who have never seen one, this is called a potato ricer. And what you do with this is you boil yourself a potato, and you stick your boiled potato in here, and this thing presses down on it, and it squeezes the potato out through these little holes and actually makes what looks almost like rice kernels. And so it's called a potato ricer. Over the years, these kind of fell out of favor, and it was common to find these as vintage kitchen items that people would buy to display in their kitchen and hang up, you know, just for giggles. And then the funny thing is that I think in recent years there's been a resurgence of these as being useful in the kitchen for certain recipes, I guess, because I now see that they now are making these new again. So you can buy a brand new one of these easily enough. This is an earlier one. I don't remember if I had seen any signs of a manufacturer on this one, but it definitely does appear to have a little bit of age to it. Oh yeah, here we go. This one, this is made by the Handy Things company of Ludington or Ludington, Michigan. So, not quite sure how old that is, but that's actually that's an item that you know, I could yard sale or flea market if I wanted to. I haven't even asked the wife if she wants a potato ricer. Also in that same area, I found this aluminum scoop. It's a big sucker, you can see. This is kind of neat. This is cast aluminum, and it's marked with a number 5282, and it's got a plus symbol, and it says aluminum in it, and it's got 4 stars around the outside. So I'm sure that's a trademark for some company. I don't know who. Again, it's an early one. It's got some age to it. You can actually see that. You can almost see the wear from years of use. It's got a lot of nicks from being banged around and that. But these actually make nice grain scoops for chicken feed, things like that. I haven't decided yet what I was going to do with it. I was actually going to use it for rock salt, for salt in the walkway in the wintertime, or sand or something like that, but I don't know, it actually seems like it's kind of maybe a little too nice for that job, and rock salt would probably really raise hell with the aluminum. So I think I'm going to hold on to that until I figure out a better use for it. I keep trying to convince my wife that we should get chickens. She's not convinced. We had chickens growing up on the farm when I was a kid, and You know, farm fresh eggs taste different. They just do. And I've even heard that a lot of the taste of the egg has to do with what the diet is of the chickens. And on our farm, the diet of the chickens was the grain that we bought at the feed store, and pretty much anything they wanted to scavenge out in their little area there, bugs and whatnot, and also the garbage from the kitchen, all the stuff that we tend to throw down the garbage disposal now, which would make great compost. If Ma was making potatoes and she peeled the potatoes, all the potato peels went in a thing, and she sent me out, and it was my job to go dump them over the fence into the chicken pen area there, and the chickens loved them. They went nuts for those potato peels. Anything that was any vegetable material that was not served at the table that was considered waste went into that chicken pen. So, enough of my chicken stories. All right, this next item I found upstairs in one of the wings that was more like a nursing home area. But there was also a hairdresser station up there, and I think they may have actually done maybe some other things there too. So this was laying out in the hallway, and this is a Schuco, SCHUCO, vacuum pump, and this says Schuco Inc. on here, and this has got this pink marker spray on it because the scrap metal guys had gone through ahead and basically hit anything that they wanted to go into the scrap metal pile with marker paint. And they also basically said anything that had an electrical cord was supposed to go. So we threw out a lot of vacuum cleaners and all kinds of appliances and stuff. And this I decided to snag for myself because I thought, well, this is a medical grade vacuum pump, but there's no reason I could think of why I couldn't use it for other applications. And if you've ever done a brake job on your car and bled down the lines to draw out any air using one of those hand squeeze type vacuum things, then you'll know that it would probably be a pretty nice thing to be able to just use something like this. This has got this tube on the end with an angle on it, and this looks like it's made to maybe stick down in somebody's mouth like a dentist would use to siphon out saliva while the dentist is doing his work or something. At least I hope it was only stuck in a mouth. It's got a regulator knob here, and it's got a gauge to measure vacuum. The gauge measures vacuum in inches of mercury, inch Hg, which Hg is the symbol, I think it's the periodic table of elements symbol for mercury. Not quite sure. Goes 0 to up to 76, and then the inner scale goes from 0 to 30. Okay, 0 to 30 is inches of mercury vacuum, I think. Oh, and the 0 to 76 is centimeters. So there's a metric component there to it. So I just plugged this in. This is a toggle switch on the back of the motor. Seems to work. Gauge is moving up. Alright, so there's a hole here on this thing, and there's little tiny holes at the end there, so I can't just cover this to get it to build up vacuum. So I'm thinking, okay, that just pulls out of here. I think now if I cover this I should be able to feel the vacuum. Oh yeah, there we go. Whoop.
give yourself a hickey.
Alright, so that seems to work perfectly fine. Maybe at some point I'll find a good use for this. But I mean, free for the taking, definitely was, you know, definitely was worth it. Not to let this thing just go in the trash. Have the cord cut off of it and the motor go to the scrapyard to get a poultry. Last time I was at the scrapyard inquiring about motors, they were telling me 12 cents a pound. That's for high-grade electric motors. That's pathetic. Hopefully it's gone up, because I'd like to get rid of a load of motors before heavy snow moves in. There was a cabinet with some painting materials in it, rollers and brushes and junk like that. I was digging through the cabinet and I found this scraper. And I, looked at it real quick and I just said, oh, I'll take that. Snagged it. And then got it home and took a better look at it and realized that not only is it an early scraper, which I kind of thought right when I saw it because of the wooden handle and everything, the way it just looks early, but it's a sterret. It's actually marked sterret right on here, right on this face. And so then I went online and looked, and I found actually a few of these online. And what I quickly deduced is that this wooden piece right here, which just slips on, okay, it's got like a spring metal piece in there, and slips on and off pretty easily off the top here. This is often missing on these. So it's kind of cool to find one of these scrapers, these early scrapers like this, and it's even cooler to find it with its original handle still present. Because this handle, I guess, over the years, just because they fall off or just maybe guys don't want to use them, it seems to me like naturally it's a great idea to have that scraper on, that handle on there like that. So this handle, this scraper is really cool for a number of reasons. One of which is you can simply loosen this nut, this wing nut, and that allows you to change the blade or take the blade off, or even rotate the blade to another position if you want to. But the more impressive thing about it is that if you rotate this handle, if you loosen this handle right here, like that, once you do that, that unlocks this ball. And now this is a fully articulating handle, so that once you set it to the angle that you want, position that's comfortable for you, you can just rotate the handle, lock it back down. So that's a really cool old scraper. And I believe this would have been used by a cabinet maker or a woodworker. I think a lot of woodworkers still do hand scraping. I think I even remember seeing Norm Abrams demonstrating it on New Yankee Workshop at one point, or one of those shows. But anyways, so that's really in great condition and complete. It's a neat old sterret, LS sterret scraper. We threw out a whole lot of light bulbs, unfortunately, way too many. But I did snag these brand new, a full 4-pack and 2 of a 4-pack. These have the small candelabra base on them. These actually fit a light fixture over our kitchen table. So figured why let those go in the trash. You can always use those for spares. These I grabbed by mistake, I think, because now that I think of it, I can't think of one fixture in our entire house that has a full-size light socket that uses this style. This box actually contains 3 brand new, never used Provon brand hand soap dispensers. These actually got wet. They were sitting outside, but that's not going to hurt them. But basically, these are the kind that you see in commercial men's rooms and things like that. And I figured, well, again, brand new, unused. So I grabbed this. I just grabbed the whole box, and then I looked around on the shelf and found found these soap refills for this. So I figured I'll put one of these up over by my sink, my slop sink that I have down here in the basement for cleanup. This one's got, what was this got? There's a couple of large bags. I'm not even sure if these are the proper refills for these because these bags almost look a little large. This looks like maybe it's the size to go in the units that I have. So I don't know what these are. I mean, I know they're soap for this type of a unit, but they just seem a little oversized. I'm not going to worry about it. There were actually quite a few more of these there that I could have taken if I wanted to. There was a lot of stuff I passed on just because I just knew it would take me forever to get around to reselling it. Also down there in the basement, we found not one, but 2 platform scales that apparently were designed for you to be able to weigh a person while they were in a wheelchair. So you could wheel the wheelchair onto the platform, and it had a post that stuck up, and it had electronic readout on. One of them was a much older unit, and this one appeared to be in working condition, but it was made out of metal diamond plate, and it was very heavy, and it was down there in the basement. So it went to the scrap metal pile, but before it went out the door, I took the time to grab some tools and snag this electronic head off of it. At the time when I grabbed it, I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do with it. I thought maybe that, down the road I could actually maybe make some kind of a unit to use this on, but that doesn't seem really realistic. But what I did find out was I actually looked on eBay, and this is actually quite an expensive unit to buy new, and I've even seen some working used ones that went for decent money. Certainly enough to make it worthwhile for me to grab it for free, take the time and list it on the bay, and see what I can get for it. I even there was an AC adapter that plugged into this unit, a little wall mount AC adapter that was there. I took the time to cut all the wire ties and everything and take that, and I handed that to my son. My oldest son was working with me that day, and I explained to him to make sure that went in our truck. Unfortunately, somewhere along the way that got misplaced, and I think it might be possible that he got grabbed or sidetracked to do another job before he got a chance to get back to the truck, and that never made it out of the basement. So I may end up having to sell this just as a parts unit or as is, and hope that I could get some action on it, because I've got plenty of AC adapters, but the plug is kind of a unique plug. It's not the typical 3.5 millimeter or something like that. So it does talk about the power. Looks like requires. It's interesting. This actually looks like it could run off of AC or DC, but I'm not going to worry too much about it because I'm not going to have much use for it. But for anybody who's curious, this is a GSE Scale Systems made in the USA, model 350. It's got a little bit of weight to it. It seems well made. It's rugged. This is like a whole cast aluminum housing or something, and it's got a looks like it's an LED that's an LED display behind there, so probably makes it pretty easy to read. Nice big numbers, pounds and kilograms. Well, anyways, found a supply room down there, and a lot of the guys grabbed themselves some of these boxes of latex gloves. These are vinyl examination latex-free gloves. Oh, these are vinyl gloves. So a couple of boxes, and then a full case of this brand. These are all Safe Touch latex examination. All right, so these are latex and these are vinyl. So that's a full case. This is one of the larger items I was able to snag, and boy, was I glad to get this. There was probably originally quite a few of these there, and I think somebody went through and grabbed a bunch of them because they weren't there for the scrap metal guy, because they're all metal. And I grabbed this one, which was the last one that we found in the whole place. This is a foot-operated hinge top lid trash receptacle. It's got this plastic bin inside here, which doesn't quite, well, I guess it does fit in there pretty well, so I imagine that's original to it. What's nice about this is a Defenders brand self-extinguishing receptacle. So this is designed so that if you have a fire start in there, this lid will seal well enough to starve it of oxygen so that the fire can't spread. Also, if you put any materials in there that are combustible that could result in spontaneous combustion, like oily rags, for instance, this will keep them from actually catching. So every shop that deals with that kind of material would probably be well served to have this kind of an item. I've heard even in a wood shop, if sawdust gets wet, that it can cause that. And I know from my days back on the farm when we used to do hay, that if the hay was damp when we put it up in the barn, that there was always the danger of the bales actually generating enough heat to start a fire. So this is the Defenders line of self-extinguishing receptacles by the United Receptacle Company of Pennsylvania. And it says listed by the California State Fire Marshal, model number ST24, Fire Marshal approved. And the modern version of these are not cheap. Alright, I'm going to temporarily shift my focus away from the items that I picked up in that clean out and get to some of these items from the flea market and the tool store, only because the other items aren't here right now. So I didn't need another timing light, certainly, but I came across this one at one of the vendors at the flea market that I frequent, and it seemed like it was in pretty decent shape. It's the same style as one of the ones I have now. This is the All Pro DC timing light. So according to the box, this was sold by Montgomery Ward's, and I haven't tested it yet, but it's identical to looks almost identical to the other one that I have. But what I noticed on this one was that unlike on the other one where there's this plastic molded piece on the end that's holding a thing like this, this one has a nice clip that you clip onto this little doohickey here. So it gives you that a little bit more versatility, I figured, that way. So I kind of like that. Also, I noticed that on mine, I had theorized that part of this was broken off. So I thought, well, maybe this one is more the correct size. So this was only I think $2 or $3 I paid for this, and it's metal. It's cast metal, whatever it is. This nice chrome finish. This is not plastic. This is rubber on the end here, which is kind of nice. Takes a little bit of a beating if it gets dropped. It doesn't break that glass. I don't think that's plastic. I think that's actually glass, that lens. So kind of cool. I think at that same vendor, the day I was there, I went through a box of stuff that had come in and spotted this. And what's actually here is a short extension cord bundled with this little slice of heaven right here, which is a foot switch. But it's not just any old foot switch. What's kind of neat about it is it's a 120 volt foot switch. So basically you plug this into your outlet, and then you plug the device you want to use the foot switch on into here, and then you step on the foot switch. Of course, this might be a complete shock hazard. Plug that in like that. This is my shop radio, which I have turned down. So, I do not yet know what I'm going to do with that. I keep threatening one of these days to get around to building myself some sort of a welding positioner or something like that. And this might be just the ticket, something like this. Now, the only limitation really on this thing is I'm not sure what the, let's see what the current rating is on this thing. Yeah, well that's pretty good. This is a compact catalog number 491-SC30, which if I look that up, it might even tell me what this originally was supposed to be used for. It's a Line Master Switch Corporation of Woodstock, Connecticut. Woodstock, Connecticut. That is so cool. Woodstock, Connecticut is not far from here at all, and it's a cow town. It's a real agricultural town, and not really known for manufacturing as far as I knew. But this switch is rated for 10 amps, 125, 250 volt AC, half horsepower, 125, 250 volt AC. So, sure, that you could run a decent sized motor on this thing for a welding positioner. Cool. You know, I don't know whether or not you'd want one that just allowed you to turn it on and off. This is strictly an on-off. It's not a variable. I do have a foot switch that I think was for an old sewing machine somewhere that I bought kind of with the same idea in mind, and that would actually give you some variable speed ability to it. But anyways, nice old school, well-made metal foot switch, and a little extra mini extension cord here that somebody didn't even, look at that, they didn't even cut the ground pin off. Isn't that nice? We gotta get a close-up shot of this pedal, because anybody from Connecticut could probably really get a hoot out of seeing this thing. I bought this from the same guy that I bought several items off. That he's always very reasonable because he gets paid to clean out these places. So this stuff is basically just whatever he's willing. You know, he hauls it out, and basically he just wants to make a little extra money for his trouble. So I can almost guarantee I only paid $2 or $3 for that, maybe even as little as $1.